The Transmission Company of Nigeria manages the electricity transmission network in the country, and it's fully owned and operated by the federal government. As part of the reform program of the government, it is reorganized and restructured to improve its reliability and expand its capacity to transmit the electricity to distribution companies. My guest this week is from the Transmission Company of Nigeria. Hello there, welcome to Dateline Abuja. I'm Gloria Umezeke. The Abuja Environmental Protection Board has served warning notices to nightclubs and other noise-generating places to soundproof their venues following numerous complaints from residents on noise pollution. Well, details of that will come in the FCT Focus segment. In our interview segment this week, we'll be talking about the state of electricity transmission facilities across the country. But first, what are the stories that made headlines within the week in the nation's capital?
Dr. Mekanti Kachala Baru.
Engineer Mekanti Baru has finally bowed out as the Group Managing Director of the Nigeria National Petroleum Corporation following the appointment of Malam Mile Kyari. A valedictory session was held in his honor as he retires from the corporation, having attained the statutory age of 60.
I look back with so much pride of what we have achieved together as a family towards moving this great corporation forward, using the 12 business focus areas. I'd like to thank you all for your support, especially to all my Chief Operating Officers and the Chief Financial Officer who are retiring also with me today. Your contribution to the growth of the organization is highly recognized. I cannot thank you enough.
Meanwhile, President Muhammadu Buhari met with the immediate past Group Managing Director of the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, Mekanti Baru, and his successor, Malam Mile Kyari. After the private meeting, Malam Kyari promised to automate NNPC systems to effectively contain corruption and curb compromise in the sector.
All other institutions involved in controlling and containing any form of corruption in our system. This is in line with Mr. President's cardinal principle to contain corruption so that this country can benefit from its resources. There will be no corruption where there is no discretion. So we'll automate our systems and processes to make sure that discretion is reduced to the barest minimum. That on its own will reduce corruption.
Members of the Islamic movement in Nigeria stormed the National Assembly to press home their demands for the release of their leader, Sheikh Ibrahim El-Zakzaky. However, it turned into a confrontation with security operatives at the entrance of the National Assembly complex. According to the police, 5 officers are receiving treatment, while the Shiites are claiming that 2 of their members died in the clash. Over 100 members of the movement were arrested by the police, and some of them have already been charged to court.
Those people who've arrested among them will make sure they are prosecuted, and those that are yet to be arrested will go after them and make sure that we'll get them arrested and justice is done.
The National Judicial Council has recommended to President Muhammadu Buhari the appointment of Justice Tanko Muhammad as the substantive Chief Justice of Nigeria. Justice Muhammad was sworn in as the acting CJN on January 25, following the suspension of Justice Walter Onoga. In April, the President requested and obtained the NJC's consent to extend Muhammad's acting tenure by the constitutionally allowed 3 months. In the meantime, President Muhammadu Buhari has written to the Senate seeking the confirmation of Justice Tanko Muhammad as Chief Justice of Nigeria. The President's request is coming after the National Judicial Council recommended him for substantive appointment. In a separate letter, the President informed the Senate of his decision to appoint 15 special advisors.
In accordance with Section 231, subsection 1 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999 as amended, which gives the President powers to appoint a Chief Justice of Nigeria on the recommendation of the National Judicial Council and subject to confirmation of the appointment by the Senate. I have the honor to forward the nomination of Honorable Dr. Justices Ibrahim Tanko Mohammed, CFR, for confirmation as Chief Justice of Nigeria.
President Muhammadu Buhari hosted members of the National Assembly leadership to a dinner. Delivering his opening address, President Buhari explained the delay in naming members of his cabinet over 1 month after taking his oath of office for a second term.
I want to see the list of the proposed cabinet so that they can go or live on peace. I'm very much aware about it. I'm under tremendous pressure on it. But the last cabinet, which I had, most of them, the majority of them, I didn't know them. I had to accept the names and recommendations from the party and the other individuals. I worked with them for 3.5 years at least, an average twice, 2 weeks in a month. So I know them. Now this time around, I'm going to be quite mean. Mean in the sense that I will pick people I personally know.
The special guest of honor.
The federal government joined the rest of Africa to mark the 3rd African Union Anti-Corruption Day. The Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Mr. Boss Mustafa, affirmed the commitment of the government to fight against corruption.
This government is committed to halting the menace of corruption and will continue to build and strengthen institutions to plug leakages. Policies will be developed and enforced to achieve this noble goal, including creating an enabling environment for all Nigerians to strive on a level playing ground. We must be our nation's keeper by saying no to corruption and reporting any act of corruption around us.
All foreigners living in the country beyond the 90 days amnesty period are now expected to legally formalize their stay in the country by using the newly launched e-migrants platform of the Nigeria Immigration Service. The Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Mr. Boss Mustafa, flagged off the initiative in Abuja.
These centers are significant to our drive for robust internal security and national development. Today's event reflects government's deliberate commitment to harnessing accurate data of its citizens and statistics of migrants, especially those who wish to stay beyond 90 days within the shores of Nigeria.
Another industrial unrest is looming in the tertiary sector as a joint action committee of the Senior Staff Association of Nigeria and that of the Non-Academic Staff Union of Universities is threatening a nationwide strike action to protest what they refer to as a funds mismanagement in the nation's tertiary institutions. The labor leaders also direct their members not to enroll or make monthly pension contributions to the National Universities Pension Company. The body has just been newly registered by the Academic Staff Union of Universities.
We reject in total the 20% allocated to our members. JAC has approved protests before a deadline is given to the government for a mother of all strike that will follow.
Welcome back. The Abuja Environmental Protection Board have seized several loudspeakers after some residents of the nation's capital complained about the noise pollution they constitute in their area. The agency is intensifying efforts to rid the city of noise pollutants and have warned residents that generating sets and grinding machines that constitute noise pollutions will be seized. FCT in Focus this week gives us more details on this.
Following the recent demolition of Caramello Lounge in the Utako district of the nation's capital, the Abuja Environmental Protection Board is on a sensitization exercise on the effects of sound pollution on the environment. Noise pollution takes place when there is either an excessive amount of noise or an unpleasant sound that causes a temporary disruption in the natural balance of sound. Noise pollution causes annoyance, hypertension, aggression, hearing loss, high stress levels, and loss of sleep. These speakers were seized by the board from places of leisure. They say they were constituting noise pollution to residents.
We in the Abuja Environmental Protection Board receive lots of complaints from the residents of the city about noise pollution in their neighborhoods. People don't sleep actually in their houses. There are lots of complaints that their children don't sleep. When they go to school, they rather sleep in the school. They are not paying attention to their lessons. The parents have lots of complaints that after building their houses to live, clubs and recreational areas sprang up afterwards, and they are putting these mega stations, mega speakers, and disturbing the whole neighborhood from as early as 8 o'clock to up to 3, 4 in the morning. This is unacceptable. Our laws are very, very clear. Abuja Environmental Protection is provided with a law to enforce on noise pollution. Anywhere within the city or within the territory where we found or where we get a complaint and we pay a visit to see that they are playing this kind of loud music in an open air, we impound them. We impound the speakers and prosecute the owners of the clubs.
In curbing the menace of noise pollution, the board has sent warning notices to several places of leisure in the federal capital. Ibiza in Area 11, The Hive also in Area 11, Crystal Lounge and Beer Barn both in Wuse 2, Dreams Garden also in Wuse 2, The Godfather in Gwarimpa, and Nadrem Lounge also in Gwarimpa. Also served warning notices for noise pollution are Sofa Lounge in Wuse 2, Traffic on Ghana Street, Maitama, Crush Cafe in Gwarimpa, and Omega Center in Wuse 2. According to the board, there are rules to operate in places of leisure.
If you want to play such a huge mega speakers, you must provide an ideal environment, a facility which is highly insulated. There are some discotheques that have insulation within their facility that noise do not go out. People go in, recreate, enjoy their lives, and go out without any problem. There are hotels. We know of several hotels in the city that are highly insulated, that even the guests within the hotel do not notice that they are playing such a loud music because it's highly insulated.
The warning notices would also spread to other noise pollutants, such as generators and grinding machines.
There are generators. People who own big generators that are not soundproof are also disturbing their immediate neighbors, which is uncalled for. And anybody who wants to run a generating set must have a soundproof generator so that immediate neighbors can now enjoy, living together with them. And the other things that we also like to caution is these grinding machines. Grinding machines are also very another way of disturbing the neighbors. So we still caution those that are grinding food items to desist in disturbing the neighbors. There are designated places where grinding can be permitted.
The board is calling on residents to make formal reports on noise pollution to them and urging anyone in the nation's capital constituting noise pollution to make the necessary changes immediately.
The Transmission Company of Nigeria provides the vital transmission infrastructure between the generating companies and the distribution companies' feeder substations. In our interview segment this week, the managing director of the company speaks on efforts to stabilize the transmission aspect of the power sector. Watch. Mr. Mohammed Usman, you're welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
You've been advocating for a transmission electricity market because of the industrial tariff, it imposes on some customers, according to you. Can you explain what this exactly means?
In transmission, as I told you, we are the link between generators and the distribution. Literally, we supply very few customers are connected to the transmission network. It's only very high demand power users, like most of those steel companies, that are connected to our network. Most of the time, people get supplied through distribution companies. So we have little interface with end customers. As a nation, if you look at this nation, if you compare us to our neighboring countries, particularly countries like Ghana, the only area we have comparative advantage over Ghana is actually electricity. It's only electricity, because if you look at the ease of doing business, we cannot compare to Ghana. Why? Because Ghana is a unitary state where you don't have states. The counties or the regions are actually a subset of the national. So they can impose tax or impose levy or impose condition of doing business. But here we have states, and the states are independent of federal. So if you are talking about a business that's been established here in Abuja, for example, let's say Lagos, for example, they have to meet the condition of the federal and meet the condition of the state. So in terms of ease of business, definitely we are going to have multiple taxation, multiple way of charges.
In spite of whatever charges there is, we still don't see the power supply.
I'm getting there. I wanted to tell you that we need to fix the power, and we need to supply our industries in a way that is cost effective, because we have comparative advantage in terms of electricity. Because we are, in terms of conventional generation in the whole of West Africa, we are the cheapest in terms of conventional generation. There is no part of West Africa, apart from few hydros, that you can generate electricity cheaper than Nigeria. As at now, we are the biggest exporter of energy in West Africa as at now. So we need to fix the electricity, and one of the ways we need to fix is to fix the grid. Now, if you look at the grid as at now, we have done a lot of work under the Transmission Rehabilitation Expansion Program. For us to modernize the grid, we need to do 4 things, and those 4 things, I will tell you where we are, at which level that we are. 1, we need to achieve frequency control. Frequency control is the balance of the generation and distribution, meaning the supply and the demand must be balanced. That is the frequency control. I want to tell you that in the history of this country, the first time we take a concerted effort to ensure that we have our frequency under control was now. It was in May 2017 that we achieved frequency control of 49.5 and 50.5. And we upgraded it to 49.75 and 50.25, which is the NAC standard, from December 23rd to date, which we have achieved at the rate of about 85% of the time. We have never achieved this kind of frequency level in the history of the grid in Nigeria.
So how much power supply does that translate to the ordinary Nigerian? Because I know power supply is still a major issue, right? And nobody really sees that light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah, I will tell you how it is. It's step by step. If I explain to you what transmissions do, I will now tell you where we have problem, particularly in the fact that our distribution network is still very weak. We need to capitalize the discourse, because we made a mistake actually in the way we did the privatization. And
what mistake?
There are several mistakes we did. First of all, there's no model like the model we are using. There's no model.
Is it obsolete, or what exactly?
No, it's not obsolete. It's so ambitious. We are supposed to follow step by step. If you look at, if you ask most people, they will tell you that the model we used was Indian model. But Indian model was that they privatized one state. The experience they learned from that state is what they used to privatize the next state, which is the next state. So as at the time, the advisors actually, only 2 states were privatized. But what did we do? We privatized everything and put a contingent liability of over 5 billion on the country. That's what we did. So it was so ambitious, and there are several mistakes that was made. I want to tell you that I was actually the secretary of the first private sector intervention in the power sector when we brought private sector to help us with revenue collection. If you remember, at that time we brought Lisa that helped us with revenue collection in Lagos Island. Global Utilities was Shomolu and Ikorodu. We have Manitoba Hydro that do for Kano, Aba, and Port Harcourt, and several other places. I was the secretary of that committee. If you look at the revenue cycle, which I was secretary, we have about 2 or 3 experiences that you cannot find it in the privatization we did. And what are those experiences? Under the RCM, there was exit strategy. We didn't have exit strategy in this hour. So
are you saying there wasn't wide consultation before this plan was drawn up? Or is that there's no way forward to this?
Yeah, there's way forward. And that's where we made some suggestions. There's way forward. We implemented right thing wrongly. You understand? So I salute the government for not reversing that privatization, because actually this is the right thing that we're going to do. Because government cannot invest in the power sector on a sustainable basis. It's not possible. So definitely we have to go the way of private sector. So now that we have created companies that have created several problems, for example, we have a liquidity challenge. You know about the 2013 billion that was given as a power sector support by central bank. You know about 701, what do you call payment assurance. These are all public money that are pumped in the power sector.
Yes.
And after privatization, I don't think we need to do this. So what we are suggesting is that instead of doing this, I think we are suggesting that we need to go another way. And what is those way? We need to capitalize the discourse, because as at now, one of the biggest challenge we have is that the discourse have no capital. I mean, there's no investment in the discourse. As at now, we have 737 interfaces with the distribution companies across the country. Out of these 737 interfaces, only 421 that the discourse have complete protection. The remaining 316 is either there's no protection or there is a minimal protection. And what does that mean? You know, power is about protection. If you go to your house now, you will have what they call ELCB. You will have cut-out, isn't it? And what is the purpose of that cut-out and ELCB? The purpose of that ELCB and cut-out is that if there's a problem in your house should be isolated from the grid. That is the reason. If the ELCB failed to perform and the cut-out failed to perform, what will happen? Whatever problem that is in your house will go to the substation and burn it. And that is why protection is very key. Now, if you look at in recent times, because of lack of investment in the discourse and our interface is not properly protected, we are also losing transformers. Even though, if you look at in the last 2 years, we have installed more transformers, more than what was done in previous 15 years. But we expand the grid.
Yeah, the problem still.
We expand the grid from 5,000 to, as at December, to 8,100. Because we empower TCN engineers to install equipment and transformers and equipment. But still, we are losing some transformers because we are connected, we are supplying customers directly. Because discourse network is very weak. Because they carry their 33 kV directly from our transformer to their customers without having a protection between us, that is injection substation. And this has led to about 5 transformers in the last 1 year. Power transformers have given way. In Abuja, we lost 2 transformers, one in Kubwa and one in Karu. And these are the transformers that are supplying customers directly. And then in Benin, we lost 2. In Onitsha, we lost 1.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mohammed.
Thank you, Madam.
Usman, for coming on the program.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Well, thank you for staying with us. We would like to hear from you on some of the issues raised during our conversation on the electricity transmission facilities. We'd also like to hear from you on warnings issued by the Abuja Environmental Protection Board to sanction noise pollutants in the nation's capital. Please send your views and comments using the email address and Twitter handle on your screen. Also, be sure to share anything happening within your locality. You may watch any of our episodes of the program on YouTube. Thank you for watching this week. I'm Gloria Umezike. See you again.